Okay, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's Philadelphia, the late 1980s. And the city, it's in the middle of a full-blown crisis, just getting torn apart from the inside.
Listen to this. This comes from legislative testimony back in 1989. It paints this absolutely brutal picture of the crack cocaine epidemic's youngest victims. And you know, this wasn't some far-off problem you just read about. No, this was a crisis happening right there, in hospitals and homes. An entire generation was starting life, well, in the shadow of addiction.
And for anyone caught up in addiction, the cycle was just relentless. Another person testifying called it a horror story. I mean, can you imagine? A high that's so powerful, but the crash is so deep that the only way out feels like taking more of the drug. That was the trap, and it ensnared thousands of people.
So, what about the official response, right? Well, as the crisis got worse, the very systems that were supposed to help were just completely overwhelmed. This testimony points to a great gap of services. Think about that. People were desperate. They were crying out for help, but it just wasn't there.
So you've got the official systems failing. The crisis is just spiraling out of control. I mean, where does hope even come from in a situation like that?
All right, first, let's really dig into just how deep this crisis went. We're talking about a city that was truly under siege. That testimony from '89, it lays it all out. You had mass incarceration hitting Black and Latino communities the hardest. You had huge lines of people trying to get into detox with absolutely nowhere to go. The courts were buried in cases, and get this, one official even admitted their systems were basically stuck in the 19th century, still running on paper. And for regular folks, the fear of violence was just constant.
But right in the middle of all this chaos, hope started to bubble up from a totally unexpected place, the organizer next door. It's time for us to meet Frances Walker.
Now, here's the thing about Frances Walker. She wasn't just a product of this crisis. It feels like she was preparing for this exact moment her whole life. When she was just 6, her family moves to West Philly, and her dad instilled this incredible sense of community pride in her. He'd sweep the entire block every single morning. By the time she's 14, she's already organizing tutoring for kids right on her own front porch. Then the 50s, she gets inspired by her dad reading the congressional record, so she starts teaching voter education. Fast forward to the 70s, and she's a total pro, working for Congressman Gray, fighting housing and job discrimination.
And this quote, it just tells you everything about her mindset. Even from a young age, she found out that people on welfare had to sign their homes over to the state, and she immediately saw how wrong that was. It just didn't make any sense to her. And that instinct, to question these unfair systems and stand up for her neighbors, it was like it was just part of her DNA.
So this lifelong commitment she had, well, it put her on a direct collision course with the drug crisis, right when it became devastatingly personal.
This, right here, this is the moment that changes everything. A little girl, one of the kids Frances coached on a community drill team, was killed. Her house was firebombed by drug dealers fighting over territory. An innocent child, one of her kids, was gone.
That grief, it turned into fuel. In her own words, she was angry, and she took it to the streets. She organized this massive rally, leading her neighbors in this just defiant cry. This wasn't just some problem anymore. For her, this was a war for the soul of her neighborhood.
And then something pretty remarkable happened. She had a dream. And I don't mean just a vague hope. I mean a detailed vision, a literal blueprint for an organization of parents to fight back. She woke up, drove straight to her best friend's house, and they wrote the whole thing down. The fight now had a plan.
And that dream? It became a reality. It became an organization that would empower the whole community to start taking back their own streets. So, with her plan on paper and, a whole lifetime of credibility behind her, she goes to her old boss, Congressman Bill Gray, and he helped her secure $1 million in federal funding. $1 million! Her vision was actually about to happen. This was the birth of Parents Against Drugs, or PAD for short.
And the strategy for PAD was just brilliant. See, it wasn't just about protesting. It started with education, giving parents the tools they needed to protect their kids. Then they teamed up with the police for these big neighborhood rallies to show a united front. But they didn't stop there. They actually confronted the dealers. They reclaimed parks and street corners. And this is so important. They filled those service gaps we talked about by offering their own support for parents and kids.
The contrast here is just stark. On one side, you have the official response, overwhelmed, slow, outdated, full of gaps. And on the other side, you have Frances Walker's community response, direct, fierce, immediate, mobilizing people to fill those exact gaps.
So while the official court system is admitting it's stuck in the 19th century, Frances and our army of parents are out there, on the streets, creating a 21st century solution. And it was built on nothing but courage and community. Now, founding Parents Against Drugs was absolutely incredible. But believe it or not, that was just one chapter in a lifetime of service. Her legacy is so much bigger.
Just look at this list. She led Healthy Start, a program that became a national model for cutting down infant mortality. She co-founded Bridging the Gap, which connects university students with community health clinics. She directed the Empowerment Zone, funneling federal money right into revitalizing West Philly. She even sued the University of Pennsylvania to win scholarships for public school kids. I mean, come on, she was absolutely fearless. You know, the word matriarch just captures her role perfectly. She wasn't just an activist. She was the respected elder, the leader, really the head of the tribe for an entire community.
Frances Walker passed away at the age of 86, and she left behind a legacy that's not just about programs and awards, but about transformed neighborhoods and just countless changed lives.
So what was her motivation in the end? It was actually really simple and really profound. It wasn't anger, it wasn't politics that drove her, it was love. She truly believed that when you lead with love, anything is possible. And her whole life is basically proof of that philosophy.
Her story really shows us that one person, just one person, fueled by love, can stand in the gap when systems fail. So it kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? What gaps in your community are just waiting for a neighbor to step up and fill them?